Hi there, my name is Gabby and it was really nice to have you in the workshop on Saturday. Today I'm going to teach you what to do with all of the supplies that you received in your kits for how to plant a pollinator garden at home. So I don't have the exact materials that you received, but we'll make do with what we have here. You should have some pots, some tools, some potting soil, and some seeds. So today we're going to be planting some pollinator plants, and these do best outside, but what we're going to do is plant them inside at first so that they can sprout and you can later plant them outside, or you can keep them in your home. And a lot of the plants that you have are really bright and colorful flowers that are really wonderful for butterflies and bees, and they help to provide nutrients and nutrition for those pollinators as they are flying around and pollinating plants. And just like they are needing nutrition, pollinators are really important for us because they account for 1 out of 3 bites of food that we eat. So we really need pollinators around. That's why they're super important. So today we're going to try to help them by planting our own gardens. So a few things to think about before you plant is where you're going to put your pots. You preferably want to put them in a window, and you want them to get direct sunlight. So look around your home and decide where you want to place them before you start to do the planting. So the first thing to do really is just to fill your pot with the soil that you get. So we'll start there. And you can also decide how you want to mix your seeds. I believe you have 4 different pots, and you can really mix them however you want. The one plant that I would plant separately is the lavender, because lavender needs to be a little bit drier than the rest of the plants. But for the most part, you can mix the seeds together. You can even Google what the flowers will look like once they're fully grown. And there's some of my favorites in there. So milkweed is one of the seeds that you got. I believe you got a few different kinds of milkweed. And milkweed is a really important plant for pollinators, especially for monarch butterflies. And monarch butterflies are those orange and black butterflies that you usually see flying around in the late summer. And they migrate from Mexico, so they come all the way here from Mexico and go to Canada. And they can only eat milkweed. The caterpillars can only eat milkweed, so it's a really important plant for them. So I'm just filling the pot with soil. You might want to lay down some newspaper if you don't want to make a mess on your table. And you kind of want to pat down the soil just to make sure that it's nice and dense, and fill it almost to the top. Like I said, it's a pretty simple thing to do. You just want to make sure that you have the sunlight and the water to keep them growing. So I have here just a wildflower mix. You have separate packets for yours, but we'll just make do with what we have here. So I'm going to take a handful of the seeds, just like that much, and sprinkle them around. Now, not all of these are going to sprout. Flowers have a really great way of surviving in that they make hundreds of thousands of seeds, and really only a handful survive. Probably about 10% of those seeds will survive and actually turn into flowers. So you can plant more seeds than will actually grow. So once you kind of press the seeds down, then you just want to cover it with about 1/4 inch of soil. So just kind of sprinkle some soil on top. And you'll do this for all of your different pots. And again, you can kind of mix and match how you are planting in each of your pots. Okay, so the seeds are covered. And now what I want to do is create a little bit of heat and a greenhouse effect so that they have a nice way to sprout. So I'm going to take some saran wrap. Hopefully you have some of this in your kitchen. The greenhouse effect is really, it's just going to trap moisture and trap the heat. So it's kind of like a little sauna for the seeds. It's going to help them grow. So one thing that I would recommend is putting a little plate or a tray or something underneath of the pot so it doesn't leak wherever you decide to place it. And then you want to take your spray bottle with water and spray it so it's nice and moist. Now all of these want to stay moist except for the lavender. The lavender you want to keep a little bit drier so you don't have to water it as often. And again, you can look online and it can give you a little bit more instructions on how to care for each one individually. But you'll want to just kind of seal it or cover it up. That way the heat will kind of rise and create condensation on top. But you do want to make sure that it has some holes. So I'm going to take this little fork here and poke some holes so that they can get air. All right. So there you go. Here's your pot. So what you'll want to do is put it in a windowsill where they're going to get some good light, or if you have a radiator or a heater or something that might be a little bit warmer in the house, especially during the winter time, then that might be a great place to put it just so that they can kind of warm up and start to, I guess they kind of need to cook a little bit. And you also have cameras in your bag, so we want you to document the process. So document as you are planting, and then every few days you can document once they start to sprout. And hopefully you'll see little green shoots coming out within maybe 10 to 14 days. And eventually it might get too big for the pot that you have. So then you can transplant it into a bigger pot. And eventually you can plant them outside, or you can just keep them in the windowsill if that's what you would prefer. And you'll definitely have a lot of extra seed left over, so you can save it for next year. Something that I like to do is just go outside and sprinkle it around the ground because they will grow outside. So that is what I would recommend. And you just want to make sure that you're watering them every few days. Make sure that the soil is staying moist, and they should grow just fine in your home. So I think that's all I have for you today. But if you have any questions, I've shared my email and my phone number, so feel free to call and ask if you have any questions. But thank you for doing your part in helping to take care of our environment by creating pollinator gardens in your home, and for taking care of the pollinators that are so important to us.